Hi there, welcome to the Contemplate show. In this show, we try to answer life's trickiest questions in the best way possible. We educate, encourage, and inspire individuals to achieve goals. On this episode, we'll be talking about a very interesting topic, tapping into power visualization. With me to discuss this topic is Rueben Sarvananthan, who is an author, an international speaker, and a business entrepreneur as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, Enoch. It's great to be here, and thank you for inviting me on.
Yes. All right, so we'll just jump in straight away. Can you just break this phenomenon down for us? What is visualization and how does it work?
Wow. Yeah, I love that topic, and thank you for asking me that question. Visualization, I believe, is the fundamental basis from which we exist. It is the ability to imagine, and that imagination then transcends and transposes to life. So I truly believe that everything that we live in life has come from our imagination. Everything we believe of ourselves comes from imagination. I think it's more than just a visualization, I should say, but it's more than just imagining with nothing at the end. It's more about imagining and with a goal, and that's visualization, and it's very powerful. I come from a belief that we were created by the spirit world and a spirit being, and therefore who I call God, and that he visualized us, and then he imagined, visualized us, and then formed us and gave us the same abilities. So visualization to me, Enoch, and I've seen this in a practical way. I'm a very practical person, come from a practical background, scientific based background, as well as a spiritual background, and I love when whatever I learn and hear connects together practically. And over the years, I've seen the power of visualization literally transform my life, transform many other lives in the areas of wealth, in the areas of health, in the areas of changing and transforming relationships, etc. I have lost you there, so I don't know if you can hear me still.
Yes. There was a bit of a glitch, but it's fine. So now, how can one use this to navigate life? How can you apply this?
Well, so before we apply it, I think maybe if I could go back a step and say, is visualization powerful enough to actually achieve things in our lives, in all areas of our lives? And interestingly enough, neuroscience has proven that what we visualize will take place. What we visualize and put focus on will come to pass. It's interesting. Recently, one of my daughters, I have 9 children, 6 girls and 3 boys, and my 23-year-old daughter was just came home from work with a really bad back that was a severe backache that lasted 7 weeks. And interestingly enough, when she went to the doctors and the physiotherapist, one of the things they said to us, we can do all this, but you need to visualize your healing. And that made me laugh, because it's something that we've brought her up in all the years, saying, as a man thinks, so he is. So when you ask, how do we practically put it into our lives? Let me say, first of all, you got to believe that it is true. Secondly, the again proven by science, our brain does not know the difference between our imagination and reality. So what we feed our brain, as far as whether we're imagining it or we're seeing it from our eyes, it doesn't know which is real. So if you believe you're poor, you'll be poor. If you believe that even if you're in a wealthier country like a first world nation, but I grew up I was born in Nigeria. My parents are Sri Lankan. I grew up in Australia, and he called this my home. Now, in all countries, we have people who still feel that they are poor, including the first world country. And in Nigeria and in Sri Lanka, we have people who believe they are rich, and they are. Now, it's not based on the economy, if you like. I believe it's based on their visualization and their beliefs and their dreams. personally, for me, I'll give you a story and then maybe move into the practical from there, if I may. I was made a decision that at the age of 30, I wanted to retire. And I wanted to get out of the 9-to-5 job because I didn't like the fact that it made me a slave. I felt like I became a slave to money rather than money being a slave to me. And I felt like I was trading my time for money continuously. So I began to visualize and believe that by the age of 30, I would retire. I had a plan. I created a plan. I didn't make it at 30. I made it at 36. So at 36 years of age, I did retire out of the 9-to-5 grind. I'm going to be 49 this year. So that's about 13 years that I can say it's worked. Now, I'm fully occupied. I have so much in life that I love doing, and I live out of purpose. But the fact that I visualized it, I might have missed the goalpost of 30, but I made it at 36. I thought that I was too old at that time, but when I look back now as we get older, I realize that a lot of people are still caught up working even at 70, 80 years of age and unable to do what I have been able to achieve today. So I can tell you that visualization is very powerful. It works. So number one, you have to believe it works. Number two, you have to start to be very clear on what you're visualizing, because whatever you put into your thoughts starts to come out. If you're continuously around people who are negative, you begin to think and visualize negative, right? I found another practical thing was just stop watching the news, because the news has never been good news. It's always bad news. So I tested this out a couple of decades ago. I would come home every night after some very productive meetings, and I would sit on my couch, and for about an hour I'd watch the news, and I'd literally go to sleep with the news on. And I noticed I was becoming more depressed over the time, because of the news. I was thinking, why? And so I began to realize that I was the information that was coming through in the news for that 1 hour of the day was soaking into my brain. I was going to sleep with it, and I was beginning to visualize and imagine and dream, and they all come together. These negative thoughts, because most of the news is negative, right? And so I did an experiment for 30 days. I changed my pattern and I changed my habit, and I stopped watching the news. And when I got home, I changed it, because if you want to stop doing something, you've got to start a new habit. And that's an important thing. Otherwise, just stopping something doesn't work. So if you want to stop smoking, you've got to start doing something else instead of it. So as me stopping watching the news, I decided to read my Bible every night, and I decided to just dwell on some scriptures that were good and wholesome. Now, interestingly, after 30 days, I found within 7 days, I was much happier. I was getting up in the morning with a better bounce in my step. I was feeling excited, and I was not looking at the world in a negative way, but in a more positive way. And so I believe that if we want to start stepping into practical, we need to believe in it. We need to start being very clear about it. And thirdly, I would actually have a purpose to live from. And this is actually the most important thing. Chasing goals don't lead you. They lead you to a place where at that point you go, what next? Living from purpose helps you always be content no matter where you are, and your purpose guides you. And as you visualize your purpose, it takes you out of even the most depressive moments. Let me say finish with this thought. Just a few months ago, but almost a year ago, we went through a dip in some of our investments and some of the things that we were doing. And it got me to a place where some of my investments started becoming more debts than they became profitable, and I didn't like it. I was getting a bit stressed. I had some responsibilities. We have charity that we help out with, and I was feeling like I couldn't help as much in the charities. It was feeling a bit stressful, all right? And so I made a decision. I said, I'm going to go to the gym every day. Why? Because my mind was getting fogged up and I couldn't visualize clearly. So I needed something different, Enoch. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to the gym every day. So every morning I'd wake up, and I normally go to sleep late and wake up a little bit later. But I just chose, no matter what time I was going to sleep, by 7:30 I was up. And on a side note, one of the good things about retiring out of 9 to 5 is you go to sleep when you're tired and you wake up when you finish sleeping. So that's a nice benefit. So every morning, going back to this, I would wake up at about 7:30. I'd kiss my wife, good morning, and then I would head to the gym. And for an hour, I would just be in the gym, working out, and got to a place where after the first 2 weeks I was doing the workouts. I knew how to do them, and so now I was on autopilot with the workout. So what did I start doing? I started visualizing, and I rebranded myself and my company, and relaunched a membership program, or launched for the first time a membership program. Moved my company from a company to an academy, because companies and businesses will start and stop over a lifetime, but academies and universities normally last a lifetime. And so I did that rebranding in the gym every morning for about 5 weeks, where I just was able to clear the fog and start to visualize. And so taking action is so important, but it connected back to my purpose, because I was trying so many different things to recreate myself, and I realized I need to go back to my purpose. And so visualization, I hope that's some practical help. Believe it, be very specific on what you're visualizing, and then just take action. Clear your mind, start taking action. Even if it's 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, start to imagine what it looks like, what your visualizing looks like, whether it's getting out of poverty, whether it's getting into the next level of wealth, whether it's dressing better, whether it's grooming yourself better, whether it's finding a better relationship or a right relationship, or fixing and sorting through relationships that are important and significant to you, whether it's improving your health. Every area of life begins with visualization, continues with it, and ends with it.
Fantastic. I mean, you've touched on a whole lot of things. I want to ask you a question. What are the ingredients for visualization? Is it frustration? Is it discontent? Is it lack of happiness? Where does the trigger start from? And what are the ingredients that helps you know that, it's time for me to look ahead? If you can just explain what that process looks like. You're giving some examples, so you can pick anyone.
Okay, that's an interesting question. I never thought of that question from that point of view. So what are the ingredients? Like, do you think, are you meaning like trigger points that would make us to visualize?
Yes, like the ingredients in terms of, say for instance, you're not happy with the shape, or, the way you, let's say you're stressed. Okay, because finance is down, things are not working. Where do you, so you are definitely, you'll be stressed. So that is a trigger to say, oh, look, I'm not happy with what is going on with me. What's the next step? And what are the ingredients that help in shaping what you want to see? Because it sounds to me while you're talking like there are different options. If you like, you can say, you know what, I'll probably go and take a loan, because that's what you visualize. Or, I'm going to think about how I can, come up with another strategy. What are the ingredients that kind of make you see, and out of the visions or the things that the possible outcomes, you say, this one, I see myself going past this problem. And, if you can explain that for our viewers to really get that out.
Wow, thank you, Enoch. Yeah, I love that question. It's a very interesting one. I think when we're stressed or anxious, to me, I feel like to the level I believe now in visualization being so strong, if I get stressed and anxious, I stop and I ask myself, what am I thinking about? Because I've already been visualizing something that led me to this point. Now, I don't know if everyone listening to me will agree with me, and I don't mind if people disagree. I know it's worked for me. I actually believe that we create every circumstance that we are in, and we give permission for things to go wrong or for things not to. And what I mean by that is, or why that allows me, what that gives me permission to do is take responsibility, because when I'm in a situation where I'm stressed, let's take the loan for example, and you go, I'm owing money, should I go and take a loan? So in a situation like where I'm feeling stressed, I would stop and say, what am I thinking? what am I imagining? What have I been visualizing? Have I detoured from my purpose? Have I detoured from my dreams and my vision? And so maybe the first thing that I would ask the audience, ask you, ask myself in any circumstance, which I did. I remember about 15 years ago, I went through a really bad situation where I was over minus $200,000 in debt. And that was quite a lot at that time. I think it still is today. Probably, it's a wage. It's a year's wage, or a little bit more than a year's wage. And so I began to, rather than limit how I would go through and sort this out, I learned something from, again, the scriptures that said that in the day of battle, they limited the Holy One of Israel. And I go, to me, that meant that I can limit the limitless power of visualization, imagination of God in me. And so I had to stop and go and think about it and say, why am I stressed about a $200,000 debt that is beyond me? And so I'd say the trigger for me when I feel, let me go down a path if you don't mind. There are three things I'd use as indicators: righteousness, peace, and joy. Again, I'm a very Bible-believing man. I'm not religious, but I'm very Bible-believing, and it has worked for me for all these years. And so the Bible says righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Spirit, in the Holy Ghost. That's the kingdom of God. Righteousness, peace, joy. So I see these three indicators. If I lose my peace, if I lose my joy, something's wrong. If I've forgotten who I am, righteousness, something's wrong. So as soon as one of these three things happen, I stop. And I want to encourage others that these are the indicators so you don't get to this place where you're in dire straits. If you're already there, there's good news that you can get out, right? So I stop as soon as one of these three indicators are going off. I see them as these life indicators. Do I know who I am? Righteous. I am righteous. I am created in a perfect image of God, but I have habits that need to change, and I have thoughts, processes that need to be refined, and those can cause me problems. Am I in joy? Even if I'm not laughing all the time, I can still be joyous. I wake up every morning, even with problems, and feel joyous now. Do I have peace? Peace that's even in the storms. Do I have this inner peace because I have a really clear purpose of where I'm heading? If any of these stop, I stop and I go, I need to stop everything. And I literally stop like this, and I'll take a breath, I'll close my eyes, and I'll just think about, why have I lost my peace and my joy? Have I forgotten who I am, my righteousness? And then what is my purpose? So I have to go back to purpose. And I really want to encourage the listeners today, if you want to find anything, before the power of visualization works the best when you know your purpose and you have clear dreams. Otherwise, you're always visualizing and you're not controlling it, and you're creating stuff and you think it's not because of you, right? You're giving it permission. Now, here's the good news. If you're in a mess, financial mess, let's use that as an example, minus $200,000 in debt, financial mess, should I take a loan? Should I go get another job? Should I get 3 jobs? Without going back to the not limiting the limitless and unlimited spirit of God within me, and the imagination that I have, and the visualization I can use, I started making this statement, and this is truly what would happen. Every time a bill came in beyond what I could pay, I would put my hand on it and say, I owe no one any debt but a debt of love. I owe no one any debt but a debt of love. And I'd start to visualize and imagine that debt being paid off. Now, within less than a year, half the debt was paid off, and within 2 years, all the debt was cleared. And one of the biggest debts that were cleared was by the ATO, the Australian Tax Office. Never have I heard it ever happen. It was almost $65,000 of debt. That one day I got a letter from the ATO saying, Dear Mr. Sarvananthan, we wish to advise you that you do not owe us any money. Your debt has been cancelled. Now that was significant, visualization, right? The second one that was very significant to me was an American Express card because I was always paying on time. This debt caught me through a situation that happened that I didn't see coming, and that's life. Life happens sometimes, okay? Yes, I made some decisions when I look back that brought me to that place, but just life happens. And so I remember calling the American Express card, and Visa, your American Express, your MasterCard, they're not people to forgive you easily. And I remember saying to them, I'm really sorry, I can't pay the debt. And I'm trying. It's been a year. I can't pay. And on the phone, while I'm talking, I'm visualizing favor. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm not asking for someone to feel sorry for me. I'm just visualizing favor, because my heart motive is not to cheat anyone. I owe no one anything but a debt of love. That was my visual, and your statements. My statements began to speak and match that. And I didn't limit how I was going to do it and how it was going to get paid off. The lady on the phone, Enoch, said to me, she said, hold on a minute. She did something, put me on hold a couple of times, and came back and said, we will cancel your card, because we've seen for the last 10 years you have paid meticulously on time always. We will cancel your card, we will cancel your debt, and you will not have a black mark against it. No black credit mark. If you ever want to get Amex again, you can apply and you will get it, right? Now, so when you say about the trigger points, I agree. If you're anxious, you're feeling fearful, you're feeling stressed out, what do you start to visualize? My first thing is say, what have I been visualizing? What have I been believing in? What have I been thinking? Now, if it comes back to me that I create my circumstances, then it's my responsibility. And it's good, because I can't change anyone else, but I can change me. And so now I can start to visualize how I want my life to be. It's interesting, every country I go to always says that we are in the worst economic situation that we've ever been. And then I ask the question, was last year better? And they say yes. And I say, last year, did you feel that last year was a good year? And they say no, we thought it was the worst. So what are you visualizing? Right? When we were growing up in Nigeria, my mom treated and made sure we were looked after in such a way we didn't feel like we were in a poor nation, in a poverty nation, or anything like that. We felt like we were in an amazing place. When we came to Australia, we barely had much to make ends meet. Again, circumstances. My dad went from a teacher to working as a tram driver to take us to school, pay off our debts, get us through the life that we're now so grateful for. But never once did they make us feel like we're missing out on anything. And so I believe that what you visualize, if you're stressing out, is to stop and go, what am I thinking of? And then let me take the responsibility rather than blaming anyone else. And then find that spot that we were talking about just before in the last question, where I can stop and think about what's my purpose, what are my dreams, how do I achieve them? And you've got to have dreams that scare you in the positive way, right? And never allow things like money's a big thing, to stop you, or the lack of it. So I hope that answers your question, Enoch.
Yeah, fantastic. Because while we're talking, really unpacks the nuance there. It was really clear that you come with a whole wealth of knowledge, break that situation down, and help the people see what they should be looking at. Now, my next question is, how come some people can see past that situation? It's like, okay, you're driving, the car breaks down, or something like you say, life happens. That's all they can see. They can't. It's a struggle to even see past that. I'll get out of this. Why is it really difficult for some people to see past that?
Yeah, I love that question. I think I used to be one of those people. I believe it's a lack of vision of a bigger picture. And I believe a huge amount of that is the way we were brought up. I was brought up with a father personally who was a stress spot. That's how I would call him. He was meticulous on making sure he woke up and did everything in the right timing at the right place. If he had an appointment, he'd get there 30 minutes early. If he was to go to the airport, we meant to be there in international airport 3 hours early. He'd be there 4 hours early. And if we took he mapped the journey out so specifically that if we took the wrong turn, that's it, end of the world. And if there was if a tire burst, like you said, on the way, whew, we're done, right? And there was a stress about getting from point A to point B, and doing the little things that I feel with my amazing dad. It was amazing in many ways, but this way was something that I took on as well. Was that we became perfectionists, and perfectionism isn't good. Living out of excellence is, but not perfectionism, because you're always waiting for everything to be perfect, and life isn't perfect. It has this perfect desire and this excitement that's perfect, and these dreams that are perfect in our head, but how it comes out is gonna look a little bit different. And so I used to wake up, I remember, I'm just surprised I'd never had a heart attack, thank God. But I would wake up from rest to suddenly, that's how I'd wake up every morning, and then jump out of bed, no time to even just stop and breathe and enjoy the morning, get ready for work, jump into my car, get to the station, make sure I'm not late, get into work, and I'm still stressed. Nowadays, I just wake up and I take anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour staying in bed, just enjoying that I'm alive. I look at my wife and I give her a hug every morning. I disturb her. It annoys her sometimes. Why are you waking me up? I just want to say I love you. Just enjoying the moments before I get out of bed, and I'm productive, and I'm more productive that way than others. So going back to your question, why does somebody think it's the end of the world and can't move forward? I believe it's because we're not seeing the bigger picture. So one of my friends helped me with this, and it was that he said, sometimes when we are delayed, when we're traveling from one place to the other, it could be because you have just avoided an accident that could have killed you. And for some reason that went deep into me, and I began to realize and imagine that every time I got late for stuff, there was a bigger purpose and a higher reason for that. And if I live from purpose, and I can't keep emphasizing more than this, because my academy is called Capture Your Purpose as well, and I'm big on purpose, because once I found it, I found everything else just fell into place. But once you find your purpose, then even when there are delays and there are things that stop you and things that just stop where you had goals for, you're just excited because you know that there is that closed door is going to open some better doors ahead. And so it's really important. Like I can remember I went through a horrific divorce about 15 years ago, and it was something that I'd never saw coming. I had 5 beautiful children. It felt like it hit me from the back. I was a minister. I was about to, having these dreams and working from home, being able to see my children grow up, and all of a sudden my world got turned upside down. And I made a decision at that point, and I imagined that I could never trust a woman again. And I said, I'm never going to get married again. My mom and my sister are the only people I could trust, and that's it. No other woman ever. And then I remember how God worked on my heart. A lot of healing came through. And there was a time when I was deep in meditation, deep in prayer, and I felt God speak to me and say, I want you to get married again. And it was a few years on, and I said, nope. And for those who are spiritual minded, if you argue with God, He wins. And He gets you in a little headlock, and He lovingly wins. And so I remember opening my heart again, and the first woman that was able to penetrate and open into my heart hurt me, absolutely hurt me. It was like a closed door. It was meant to be. I thought I was in love, and I thought this is the right one, and this is going to happen, and she just used me. She was already engaged, and she didn't tell me, and I didn't know, and it was just like, oh my gosh. Now at that point in time, it's like this roadblock, right? You're on the road, the tire's blown, and it's like, I can't move on. And it could have been easy for me to say, I ain't going to move further. But at that point I said, I'm going to go back to my purpose. I'm going to remember what God has said, and if He said it, it's going to pass. And I surrounded myself, and this is a really important part of visualization, I surrounded myself with marriages that were healthy and good. And because I realized I hadn't been around healthy marriages. And I found 3 couples, one in Uganda, 2 in Australia, that I really loved hanging around these people. And I really loved seeing how these relationships work. They were best friends, and I'd never seen that before. I grew up in a culture where they said your wife should not be your best friend. It's a disaster if she is. So I grew up in this different mindset, and I was visualizing a different thing. So I started visualizing a new thing, and when this disaster happened, it did take me 2 to 3 months to recover, but I began to remember the visualization of who I wanted and what I wanted and how I wanted to be with my life partner. That's when my wife came along and totally was everything I had visualized. And it was a powerful, again, another powerful connection to recognize, even when there's a failure in a past, in a relationship, I didn't have to bring that baggage in, because I had rewired my brain, looked at my habits that was causing issues and causing problems, and then re-changed who I was. And part of changing that was to hang around others so I could look at what does it look like to visualize, because I didn't know how to visualize a good marriage. But by being around some very healthy marriages, that I said, I really like the way they treat one another. I really like the way they connect. I really like the way they support one another's vision and purpose and life values. My wife and I, all these decade plus that we've been married, we've supported one another, and we're supporting one another's dreams and visions and purpose. Now, if I hadn't learned to move on when there was a roadblock, and go back to my dreams, my vision, and then visualize, I would still be stuck somewhere, and I'd probably be angry and unforgiving, and maybe bitterness, in me, and this sense of being a victim. So so when you ask the question, which is a great question, how do we move on? I think the first thing we got to do is recognize, how did we get here? Okay, we got here. There's a bigger purpose. Sometimes some things are beyond my understanding, but if I keep moving towards that visual that I have of the positive, not the negative, it's gonna come. It has to come. It's inevitable, because what you imagine is what you'll become.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you very much. I'll ask you one more question before we go on break. So sometimes there is, I like the way you explain that scenario there. Sometimes some people have that disconnect, and could it be as a result of them forgetting the past? So let's say a job didn't work out in the past, and years after they got a better job, and they were actually grateful they didn't get that job. But when they have another disappointment, they forget about the experience and the happiness they got, that friendship didn't actually work out, because that person wasn't really a good person, and it was good that he didn't go far. How come they forget? Now I'm trying to connect that with visualization, that you've been through something and now you have a fresh issue in front of you. How come people tend to forget what the success they've had, and to apply that, to visualize that this too shall pass?
I love your questions, Enoch. Amazing depth of question. I think that is really hits a reality for all of us. The thing that was going through my mind when you were asking this question was, why is a failure seen as a bad thing? Why is a job that didn't work out seen as a bad thing? Why is a relationship that went sour seen as a bad thing? And I think if we can answer that question and maybe change our mind towards a better truth, that every successful person has had to go through failures. The most successful people in the world, Michael Jordan comes to mind, Oprah Winfrey, Elon Musk, there's so many people who, Ford, Henry Ford, every successful person that you speak, if you get a chance to speak to, will tell you they failed. And so I did a a Zoom call recently on the power of failure. And part of my journey with the power of failure was that failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of the pathway to success. So I think the root problem, maybe we hit that, Enoch, and it might work out the other problems, hopefully with whoever's listening, and this might be helpful to. Certainly was helpful to me when I recognized that when I have a job that didn't work out, I celebrate it. When I have a relationship that didn't work out, I celebrate my disastrous marriage because I've still learned so many beautiful lessons from it. It was a beautiful time. There were periods of time that were beautiful. I celebrate the investments that did not go right, because if they kept going the way they were, I would not now be creating something new. I would probably not even have time to sit here with you today, and I had been visualizing podcasts for some time and had no clue how to start it. But if my investments hadn't gone the way that I was not expecting them to go, I could have gotten upset from it. But I celebrate those because new things have come from it. Amazing new things to touch more lives and to help others. Interestingly enough as well, one of the things I'm celebrating, which I didn't at the time, when just a few years ago, some of our investments dramatically went down and we didn't have the cash flow we had to help a number of charitable things that we were doing. We went back to these groups that we were helping around the nations and said, you need to now become independent as well. And then we remembered that was our visualization from the beginning. When we started our projects, the Project 61 international group that we started 14 years ago, Enoch, was about helping people and then creating a space for them within 2 to 5 years that they could themselves do what we were doing. And they didn't need to be dependent upon us. Now, we'd forgotten that because we were helping and we'd had such an overflow to help that we'd forgotten to make them go out and become independent. And so your question is a great question. And my answer is, why is my failure a negative thing? Why is it a showstopper? Why should not my failure, like right now I've been on a journey to lose a certain amount of weight and particularly fat in certain areas of my body, and I gave myself 5 years to do it in, and there have been roadblocks at times along the way, but in that I've celebrated because I've learned more about my body. I've learned what works, what doesn't work, what can work, what should work, what isn't working. I've learned that there is no one answer to every human being because we're so unique. We're so like individuals. And I've recognized that I'm celebrating that rather than being upset by it. And so I've found, and don't get me wrong, when something goes wrong at that point in time, I'm not celebrating. So I'm not superhuman. It's not a super thing that you can just turn on and turn off. But as soon as I start to process through and understand it, my question is, why should I not celebrate my failures as much as I celebrate my successes? What are the lessons I can learn from it? And if I don't, I won't move on, and it will lead to these things that we would then look at as symptoms, but they're not the root cause. And so we live in a world that has birthed itself from some of the mistakes and disobedience and things that were not we were not designed for. So we live in a behavioral system that we learn from school and from culture and from home, where mistakes are bound to happen, and we have these expectations that we can't always meet. But if I look at it as a celebration, it helps. So I'm also learning that with my children. When they do things that I think not a good idea, I still celebrate them because I want them to know that we can have a conversation through all of these things, and we can celebrate some of these things and lessons that are learned, rather than me saying, I told you so, and you've created disaster, and oh my gosh, everything's going to be a mess. Is it possible for our scars to be turned into stars? Is it possible for our tests to become testimonies? Is it possible that when Thomas Edison said, 1,000 times, I think it was either 10,000 or 1,000 times that he failed before he created the light bulb. Imagine if he didn't say it was a failure. He said it was 999 times or 9,999 times that he just didn't find a way on how to create it. And then that one time he did. So can we celebrate our successes? And I guess our failures just as much as we celebrate our successes. The last thought on that question is, do we learn anything from our successes, or do we learn more from our failures? And if we can learn more and the answer is we learn more from our failures. So if we can learn more from our failures, if we're willing to listen, the successes we tend to celebrate and we don't learn. So if we can learn more from our failures, we become extraordinary, because we then use that to rise above to the next stage and the next step.
Wow. It's been a whole lot, and just soaking everything in. It's like our viewers will be taking notes, because you're breaking everything down, which is why we like the Contemplate show. It's where we have great minds like yourself to help people get to where they want to. We'll take a little break and we'll come back on the Contemplate show. Don't go away. All right, so we're back on the Contemplate show. We've been talking to Mr. Rueben, and he's been really unpacking the great mystery of tapping into the visualization world. And for those of you who have been listening, I know you've been taking notes and benefiting from this episode. Mr. Rueben, we have another question for you. How can people use this visualization to achieve their goals?
Well, thank you, Enoch. How can people use this visualization to achieve their goals? Beautiful question. I spent a lot of time studying about goals, because I studied millionaires for about over 20 years of my life. When I was a teenager, I read an amazing book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I'm sure most entrepreneurs who are on this, and I'm sure yourself would have heard or read it. And I then started studying multiple millionaires, and I began to realize something that they were all doing. They were all setting goals, and they tell me, set your goals, have somewhere to head towards, and then visualize it. Now, they were great. It to a level it worked. But what I found is a better way, and may I just suggest a better way, and then we come back to these goals. I hardly set goals the way I used to anymore. What I discovered was that, and maybe I love painting pictures, but I'll do it visually, and hopefully you'll visualize it, right? Imagine going along in life, and you started in life, you're going along in a timeline, and you've set a goal in somewhere in the future, and say you want to earn $500,000 in the next 3 years, and you're in your business and you set a goal, or you want to get into a career that's very high paying, high influence, high affluence, and you said, 5 years from now I want to do that, or you want to get your PhD done, or you've decided you want to change to a different country. Doesn't matter what goal. You want to lose weight, say 20 kilos in the next 3 months, and you want to be the next bodybuilder, win the bodybuilding competition for lightweights in the next 3 years, or run a marathon, or whatever it is. So there's a goal, right? We all have goals. Now, between the time we start and get to that goal is time, right? And my question was that I started posing to myself was, between here and here. So remember, I wanted to retire at the age of 30. And so between here and here, when I get from here to this goal, what is it going to cost me to get there? And for most people, it'll cost you, let's say we're focused on our careers or wealth, okay? It normally costs you your health, lack of sleep, lack of good food, your relationships, no time for your family. If you're married or you have children, or even around, if you have not seeing your kids, you're not seeing your mom or dad, or no time, right? Because you're trying to achieve this goal. And every time people call, I don't have time, right? I'm trying to achieve something. And then the question I had was, when I get to this goal, now what? Because I've achieved it. Now what? I've got my PhD. Awesome. Or I've got that career advancement. Awesome. Or I've achieved $250,000 a year income or a month income. Awesome. What next? Or I've bought those 5 properties. What next? And then what happens is what? We do a reset. We set a new goal. And again, what does it cost you? So the question I began to ask myself, that really helped me was to start going back to my purpose. What do I want to do in life? What is my purpose? And if I had all the money in the world, all the health in the world, my relationships were in perfect order, what would I do? And so I'd ask myself that question over and over again and start to visualize the answers. And so for me, what I would do was travel the world and tell people the good news of learning to have purpose and setting goals out of purpose because it doesn't sacrifice anything else. Now, this is something that maybe nobody's heard about. I don't know if you've heard about it, but this is not something I heard about, but I've certainly lived it, and this is so amazing. So I work hard in the rest of God. And the Bible talks about that in Hebrews chapter 4, and it was really helpful to me. So what does that mean? I read something in the story of the talents, for those who have ever read the Bible, where Jesus talks about a man going away. He gives talents to his servants. One he gives 5 to, one he gives 3 to, and one he gives 1 to, right? 5, 2, and 1, I think it is. And the 5 multiplies it to 10, the 2 multiplies it to 4, but the 1 hides it in the ground. And he's considered a wicked and slothful servant. But interestingly, this servant says to the master, I know you're a person who reaps where you have not sown. Please hear that. You're a person who reaps where you have not sown. And I went, huh? And then in John 4:38, Jesus says a statement. He says, I'm paraphrasing, and he says, if you listen to what I'm saying, wherever you and go wherever I tell you to go, you will reap where you have not sown. Now, this profoundly changed me from moving from goals to moving to purpose. I can reap where I have not sown. I've never heard that before. I've always been taught you have to sow to reap, right? And that is a very good principle, don't get me wrong. And then I've been taught you have to sacrifice to get to places. So I tell my family all the time, hey, one day I'll spend time with you. Hey, soon, but just not today. Hey, I'll go take you out on a date, my wife. I'll buy you all the things you need, but let me just get to this goal first, right? And we tend to live our lives that way, and we're always going around these goals, and it feels like we're not content. Or we might get to a contentment. I've lost this certain amount of weight and I'm really happy, but it's cost you family, it's cost you relationships, cost you maybe some other areas of your life. Okay. Now, so I began to ponder on this for a while, and I know I'm answering this in a long way, but I'm just trying to get some detail in that might be fresh information to some of you. But if you can learn this quicker than what it's taken me, man, it's going to be amazing for you. And so I began to say, what's my purpose? And then say, how do I grow in capacity? And part of my purpose was, I want to travel around the world, tell people this amazing news. I want to be articulate enough to teach others, and I want to support people around the world and give them 2 to 5 years to become like me, not to be under me, and to be even higher than me so they could come back and teach me. And so I began to visualize this, and I want to reach the whole world. Enoch, I want to reach 7.4 billion people. Now, growing in capacity means, and living purpose rather than setting goals was, I said, how do I start reaching the one? How do I travel to just one country? And so I started doing this. And I started growing in capacity rather than trying to wait till I get to a goal. Now, two things that happened from that. One was I stopped sacrificing important things. Now, I'm not perfect. I still sometimes feel like I don't spend enough time with family and people who are important to me. And I change. But I'm continuously processing and re-editing my life and making sure I do that, because I'm aware of it. I sometimes feel like I don't spend enough time on my health, so I rejig that and make that my priority. But here's the exciting thing. I'm living out of contentment rather than just waiting for this goal. Now, the second thing that became exciting was I realized I might be going to a goal and I just die before I meet that goal. How am I going to feel? I'm going to go meet Jesus and go, hey, send me back. I missed that goal by a month. But if I'm living out of purpose, I can go anytime. Literally, if it's time for me to leave right now, and you ask me, are you content? Yes. Have I grown to the capacity I want? No, but I'm content. And so when you ask the question, how do we visualize our goals? Can I ask you first, visualize your purpose, visualize your dreams, be content where you are, and don't sacrifice anything. The only sacrifice we have to make is our mind, and to bring it under subjection to this higher level of understanding that somebody else sacrificed for you. As a believer in Jesus, I believe what he did for me, and he said it is finished, completed me and brought me back to this fullness of how the first man and woman was created in completeness. And if I can live from that position, all I have to do every day is sacrifice my mind and my thinking and change my thinking back to I'm an inheritor. I'm not an imposter in this world. I am an inheritor. And coming from an inheritor point of view, when I have bad days I don't think I have bad days. Let me say I have bad minutes. I used to have bad hours, days, maybe months, but I have bad minutes. They go for a little while and then they reset. Why? Because over the years and the decades, I have learned to reset myself as quickly as I can and recognize that I operate from a different position, and all human beings have the capacity and ability to. And so the sacrifice I needed to make to hit my goals was to change my mind, live from my purpose, and then have goals. But it will not be at a sacrifice of my children, my relationships, the things that are important to me, my health. My mom lives with us, and it is the most beautiful thing for me to look after my mom. My dad, before he passed on, for 7 years I became close friends with him, and we were not in good relationship beforehand. But because I had learned these ability to move from goals to living out of purpose and capacity, and then increasing capacity. And here's the last thing that's happened. Visualization. I have traveled to so many countries and half the countries I've traveled to in the last 12 months. I traveled to literally every month. In the previous 12 months, sorry, not these 12 months, I traveled to a country once a month, and half of those travels were paid for. Not by a charitable organization, but by businesses that would pay me to come and evaluate what they were doing. And I got to travel to new countries. I got to travel to China. Recently, I had visualized going to China, and I didn't pay for it. I got to travel to Dubai, and I didn't pay for it. And then the ones I did pay for, I got to take my children with me. We went to Egypt. My children are homeschooled, the last 3, and we got to stand in front of the pyramids, and rather than them learning it on paper, they were homeschooling and watching it. Now, I visualized that. I'm visualizing continuously how I want my family to be. When my older children sometimes say, hey dad, can't come see you, we're busy. I say, stop saying you're busy, because busy means being under Satan's yoke, B-U-S-Y. I said, be occupied. Don't be busy. Because when you're busy, you're not in control of yourself. And I say to them, if you're busy now at high school or in university, what when you're married, when you have children and you have a career that's fully working, are you going to have time? So what are the values we have? And so I would say, if you're going to visualize your goals, start with knowing your values. Start with knowing, which comes from your dreams and your vision, your purpose. And once you have those values in place and you live from that, it's a beautiful journey. You're going to still make mistakes, but when you hit roadblocks, they become teaching lessons rather than feeling like this is the end. I can't move forward from it. So no matter what your roadblock is, once you're living from purpose and capacity, your values begin to change as well. And you begin to be someone who loves to serve rather than just gain. And as you serve others, you just gain, right? Because there's this beautiful proverb that I love. It says, as you water others, you yourself are watered. So if I'm here with Enoch today, my job is not to say, hey, look at me, I'm so amazing. It's to look at Enoch and say, look at this program, it's so amazing. How can I serve my brother Enoch today in the most amazing thing that he's doing that I can't do? And he has visualized something that is going to go around the nations and touch the hearts of many. And if you're listening to this, it's because it started with someone having a vision. This man had a vision. And I know there are many out there who have vision to have podcasts and to work through something, but just to be able to do it, he's practically got in here, done it, and there'll be roadblocks. I'm sure if I asked you, bro, you'll say there are roadblocks, and there were roadblocks, and there are going to be roadblocks. But you're visualizing it. And if your visualization, and I haven't asked you this, but I would like to speak this over you, that your visualization is that every home will somehow in their life hear one of your podcasts and connect and be transformed, and their life's going to be a bit better and then go to much better, and they're going to just be contemplating things in life because of what you've done. Then you're living out a purpose and a mission that is better than goal setting in my mind. So I hope that answers your question. May not be the answer you were expecting, but I hope that answers your question.
Wow, that was great. It took us on a journey and it was fully packed. So people just, the goal is XYZ. So I take XYZ, tick, tick, tick. What next? But you're going beyond that to look at a purpose and kind of put all of that together in context, so that the reason why we do things and the subset, which are goals, are all captured in that, which is really, 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 really brilliant. I must say. Do you have any final words for us? And then, do you have book recommendations? And how can people contact you? These are 3 questions. At the same time, the first one is any final words for those who are thinking about, how to wear, routines, or any tips or anything you want to give them, and then also any books, a book you recommend, and then how can people reach you, website, social media handles, so they can connect.
Beautiful, thank you. Well, let me start with just saying, if anyone wants to reach me, you can find me on Facebook with my name, Rueben Sarvananthan. You can go to my website, captureyourpurpose.com. You're welcome to find me, and you're welcome to connect. I have a WhatsApp group as well. We have an academy that we have just started up that's moving people into their life purpose and looking at things in their wealth, in their health, in their relationships. So feel free to, I'm more than happy for anyone to contact me and be part of the journey. One thing I do love is I'm looking for people who are motivated. I work with the motivated, and I don't try to motivate people. But if you're motivated to make a change in life, then come, let's see it happen. As to the question about tips, actually, let me go to the books first, and I'll come back to tips, because I think tips is a beautiful thing to end on, if that's okay with you. With books, look, there are so many books that impacted me in visualization as part of the journey of the book. So it wasn't just specifically on it. The one book I do know that has helped me was Think and Grow Rich. I think most people have read that book. Napoleon Hill, heard of it, and it is a book really worth just rereading, re-looking at. It's a beautiful book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. But there are other books like Robert Kiyosaki wrote, some books from Donald Trump that I've read, some books from Richard Branson. There's so many books that have impacted me in different ways, but they all have a portion on mindset and visualization. All right. And so I can't think of one exact book that I would say, look, this would be excellent to read. But in terms of behavioral change, I think one of the best books that I read, even though it was a little quite tedious, quite a big book, but really, really good, was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Now, it's a big book to read. And even if it takes you 5 years to read it, it's still worth doing. But it is an amazing book, and the principles within it and behavioral changes that help with it are the most amazing. So that leads me to the tips. Number one is, it's not hard to make a change. The hardest thing is to believe that you need to change. So once you believe it, making the change becomes the easier part. It's like the gym. I just show up and then it becomes easy. Trying to show up was the hard thing. Right? And so it's just like that. In my academy, I tell people in some of the classes, you just have to show up. You don't have to do any homework. You don't have to do any preparation. You don't have to stress, because some people would not, they'd pay their membership and they wouldn't show up because they were stressed that they had to do something, and they'd already talked themselves out of it, visualized out of it with a negative. And I said, just show up. I'll do the rest, because that's why I'm a coach. So in terms of tips, I'd say think about, is visualization important? And if it is, then there is no one way to do it, but the way I have felt you can start with is literally to take 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes a week, anything, and start with just putting, I'd say give yourself an hour, but if you can do it, if 5 minutes, it's fine, however long it takes, and ask yourself this question. Go to a quiet space, no distractions, close off all your devices, and have a paper and pen. I wouldn't use an electronic device because it distractions with other things coming in. And ask yourself these questions, just 3 questions. If I had all the money in the world, what would I do? If I had no health issues, what would I do? If all my relationships were in perfect order, what would I do? And then ask yourself 3 other questions. And the first one is, if I had 6 months to live, what would I do? And I'm sure it wouldn't be, I'm going to go working for the rest of my 6 months because I love my job. I'm going to pay my home loan off in 6 months, my 30-year home loan, because I really love the bank. It wouldn't be those. Okay, if I had $100,000 coming into my account every month and I had to spend it completely before the next 100,000 came in, how would I spend it? And once you get past the fluff of I'm going to travel the world, I'll go shopping, play golf every day, you can't spend 100,000. Like, after a little while, it'll be something more substantial. And the third question would be, if my everything I desired, everything I dreamed, everything I wanted was just completely came to me, and I was only 20 years of age, what would I do with the rest of my life? And so these 6 questions I would contemplate and think about, and I would have these thought process, and that's how I'd begin. And I did that. It was actually a set of 5 questions that I did at least once a year. I did it 4 to 5 times a year sometimes, where I'd sit down and ask myself these questions. And I did that for about 5 to 7 years, continuously, meticulously disciplined myself until I got to this point where I began to live out of my purpose. Because we are conditioned to live out of reacting to things in life from the time we were born. And to be able to live from purpose is to slow down and then to live from this place of fullness and completeness. And it takes time. And you're not there all the time, but if you're there 80% of the time, it's so much better than the life that people have been living, where they're reacting all the time. We want to respond and not react. And so, going to a place and just kind of 5-10 minutes, once you've begun to recognize what you want to do, then the second step I would do is just go to a place, close my eyes, and just imagine what it looks like. Before you wake up, before you go to sleep, you can do that. Most people go to sleep worried, Enoch. What if we go to sleep and no matter what the worry is, we go, the next 10 minutes I own these next 10 minutes, and I'm going to imagine. What if you wake up in the morning and just wake up 30 minutes earlier, or even 5 minutes earlier, 10 minutes earlier? It's discipline, it's consistency. And say, before I jump out of bed, I'm just going to take deep breaths. Now, I say, thank you, my Father, for this life that I have. And then I just think and I visualize, what's my day going to be like? And before these other thoughts come in, I got to pay this bill, and I got to do this response. I got to take the children here, and I've got to. I stop. What's my day going to look like today? And I take charge of it. And so that's the second thing I would suggest. The first thing is find time to answer some questions about your life purpose. And the second thing is to find the time to visualize it. And then this is the most amazing thing that will happen. The third thing, for those who have already done these two, I've done that. Yep, great. Wherever you're going every day, start to think about what you're thinking about. You could be in the shopping center and you're just imagining and visualizing, is this the life I live? Am I rushing to buy stuff in the shops just to get home to cook? Or am I going to the shops? Because whether you're fully loaded with money or not, you're going to go to the shops, right? Whether you're fully loaded with your relationships, amazing, love your relationships, love your life, you're still going to go to the shops to buy groceries, right? So when you go there, how do you go? As a person who's completely content. So I call it faith it before you make it. Don't fake it. Don't fear it. Faith it before you make it. Okay? So hopefully some of those tips will help, because once you get to the third part, you start to live and inhale and exhale from a place of your visualization, where you're thinking of things that are going to lead you to a better, contented life. May I finish with a story, Enoch, if you would? I've talked about finance, I've talked about relationships. I want to talk about divine health, not just normal health, divine health. I believe we can live forever. I believe that we've just been told that we can only live till 70 or 100, but I love the fact that the youngest looking man today, I forget his name just escaped me, but who's talking about longevity, who spent millions and billions, I think close to billions of dollars now on his health, has said we could be the first generation that doesn't have to die. Now, I'm excited about that, because before all of that, I began to visualize living till at least 500 years of age. And saying, why should I look older? Why should my knees give way? Why should my joints give way? That's just what science is saying. It isn't the truth that I need to hold to. And so I also believe in divine healing. Now, I have time and time again seen people instantly healed by me putting my hands on them. They can feel a heat. And I don't believe I'm a special person. I just believe that I understand some of this stuff and I'm practicing it. And whether they believe in God or in healing or not is immaterial. Once they give me the invitation, I don't care what they believe. They've said, I believe in you and what you're going to do. And I've seen people healed. Just recently, we were at the gym, and one of the ladies there she was a young girl, one of the trainers there, and she had constant pain in her back. I said, hey, can I just check your legs? And when I checked her legs, one leg was this much shorter than the other. And it's a case of hips. 80% of people's hips are misaligned. And I just held them up and I said, just come out. And it came out, it grew out. She could feel something happen. I visualized it. I visualized people being healed. I don't expect any human being needs to suffer. I visually believe that this world does not need to suffer. Now, I can go around saying, oh, look at this world, and blame everyone else. And now I'm visualizing that, or I can be the change myself. And this woman does not believe in the same beliefs that I believe in, but she saw the outcome. She got up, she walked around, and no pain, pain-free. Right, and another gentleman was there he came from Iraq, but this is in Australia, and he was having 3 bulging discs out of place. He was a support worker there. Just last week. So these are new fresh information that I'm saying again with visualization. And I was having a chat with him, and he says, "Brother, I can't move. My back is a lot of pain." And I just met him for the first time, and I said, "Can I release healing over you?" And he said, nothing's worked. And I said, no problem, can I? And he said, yes, sure. And I put my hand on his back. He felt immense heat. Now, I'm visualizing him being healed. Now, I'm not going to say he was healed at that point, but he said 2 things. He said, oh, I feel the heat. I feel heat. And from 10 out of 10 pain, my pain has gone down. I can move I'm more flexible. And I said to him, no problem, come back for 3 more treatments. So the next time he comes to the gym, he'll call me and say, 3 more treatments free of charge, and we'll see what happens. Now, why I'm telling you these stories is not because I'm better than anyone else. I'm just saying visualization works. When you know who you are and you live from your purpose, visualization is such a powerful tool that releases so many things in our abilities, in our body, in our whole being. The last books I would recommend are the books that I have written, but again, not because I believe that mine is better than anyone else's. It's just my stories that might help you. My first book that I wrote is called Discovering God's Purpose, Your Calling. And that really takes us to some of these purpose things we talked about. I've written another book called How to Create Business with Little or No Capital. And again, that takes care of people who say that you need capital to set up businesses. You don't. And I've done it for over 20 years now, and it's possible to create business with little or no capital. And substantial businesses we're talking about. I've written a book also on something called Better Than the Tithes for those who are believers in church believers and churchgoers. We've written a book that's showing that tithing is no longer required. Something more than tithing, which is all that we have belongs to God. And when I give from that position, I have an abundance and an overflow that is immense and amazing. Okay, and then there's another one called Season of the 4,000 that I've written, and so these are books I would recommend that again take a journey of a lot of the things I've talked about today. It's available on Amazon. You can go find it and look for it, or you can find me on Facebook and I can point you towards it. So Enoch, I hope I've answered the questions. I hope I've done justice today, because I am so excited about, you didn't know much about me knowing about visualization. So it was really funny when you said to me, hey, could you teach on this topic and share on this topic? And I'm like, this is right up my alley. This is stuff that I love. I've lived. I can say it works, and it's still working.
All right. Thank you, viewers. There we have it. To the end of this episode. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And then if you have any questions, please put it in the comment section and best to respond. Again, please contact Mr. Rueben if you have any further questions, you want to join the academy, or you want to see in person. Please just grab the details and do the needful. All right, that's all for me today. I'm your host, Enoch Kogi, and bye for now.